Awakening to the light within. I'm really happy that you're here and that you decided to join today. That's really great. That's really great. So today the manual for teachers is just as a subject where we actually, okay, so there's still somebody coming in. And we're going to use the manual for teachers of A Course in Miracles just to take another look at our, say, transformative process that we're undergoing. And it will look at very specific things today and everything related to sacrifice. And in your spiritual path, in your transition, in your transformational process, the idea of sacrifice will come up. Like, are you sacrificing something? Do you need to leave something behind that you treasure? Or do you, like, if you leave your nets, for instance, if you leave your nets, is that a sacrifice or not? So this is one of the things that we're taking a look at using the manual for teachers. So I always love to do some, say, mind training, mind gymnastics before we start the meeting. And I'm using for that the review out of this little booklet, the review of the first 50 lessons. And I decided to take off, say, at lesson, what was it? At lesson 7, where we ended up last time. It's like, I see only the past. That's where we start with. So I'm reading this as an exercise more than anything. It's a review of a lesson, of a couple of lessons, probably 5 or so. And it's a review, but it asks you to let go of the specific parts that it's referring to. Your thoughts. So letting go of your thoughts, your concerns, your ideas, you name it. So this brings you into a state of, say, you let go. Your mind starts to empty out, so to speak. It doesn't hold on to thoughts, but it's just letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. And that's very helpful because we see that if you do so, your mind is open, your mind is receptive, and that what follows will be a lot easier for you. Like, suddenly you start to hear things easier. There's no resistance that you feel against it, or who knows what happens to you when you undergo this. I'm not trying to make an imagination of that. You have your own experience. So that's what this is for. And so I will start to read the first 5 lessons after lesson 7. So I see only the past is lesson 7. I'll start with that. I see only the past. As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon, and I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. When I've forgiven myself and remembered who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. There will be no past and therefore no enemies. And I will look with love on all that I failed to see before. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing I'm giving up nothing. I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely to see whether or not to see. What I've chosen to see has cost me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see. My thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts, yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that's really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts? My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking. And such chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I'm grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning. A meaningless world engenders fear. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable. It offers no ground for trust. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope. But such a world is not real. I have given it the illusion of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. In choosing this, I will escape all the consequences and all effects of the world of fear, because I am acknowledging that it does not exist. God did not create a meaningless world. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that is real is in His mind. It is in my mind too, because He created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts when the perfection of creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide. My thoughts are images that I have made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts which tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering, loss, and death shows me that I'm only seeing the representation of my insane thoughts, and am not allowing my real thoughts to cast a beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against Him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is the will of God, is His, and I will place no other gods before Him. Okay, so this is our warming up, so to speak, for that what is coming. So, meaningless thoughts, letting them go. They avail us nothing. They produce a world that is completely chaotic, that believes in ideas like death, disease, disaster. That's why we call it a three-dimensional, 3D world. Disease, disaster, and death. And it's not going to avail you anything, because it's an unnatural place for you. But see, now you recognize your own values, like, okay, but this and but that. And you might feel like, yeah, what am I supposed to do then? Give it up, and then what? Well, all these things have to do with the idea of sacrifice. You think that you are sacrificing something if you have to let go of it, that you're gonna miss out on something. See, and this is part of the, say, normal, quote unquote, normal human way of thinking, like your normal human frame of reference. But it has nothing to do with the reality of who you are. And since we're awakening to that, like awakening to the light within, since we're awakening to the truth of you, that is going to shift and change. And that is really shifting into a whole different direction inside yourself. Like your consciousness is changing. It's expanding, in fact. Because the small place, or the small frame of reference of a human mind is limitation, is sickness, is lack, disease, disaster. Well, it is like a definition of limitation. There's always something lacking. A situation will never be perfect. It was nice if this, or it was nice if that. This is what you tell yourself and the people around you. Like, well, yeah, it's great, but you know, it's never complete, whole and perfect. And it doesn't need to be made like that either. So you can give up that part too. So realizing that you have an idea of perfection in you, like you are actually that. You were created perfectly by God, like that is not missing anything. And it's also not changing, like you were never born in that sense. It is created, but it's a creation. It's a creative energy. It is not like it started on that day and it will end on a certain day. That is not what you are. So all these ideas we look at here in the manual for teachers, and for those who are wondering what a teacher of God is, because that's what we're talking about. A teacher of God is anyone who chooses to be one. It's like you start to teach truth, and teaching truth is demonstrating it. And demonstrating it has like 3 phases in a certain sense. It's like first you hear it, you start to recognize it, then you start to learn it, and then you start to, say, do it, or literally like let it lead your way. And that sounds pretty easy when I say it like this. Nevertheless, it is a whole process where you're going through. On a day-by-day basis, you actually are experiencing this now, since you dedicate yourself to your spiritual path and to waking up out of the dream that you find yourself in and that you discovered could never be it for you. So before we talk about sacrifice, I really would love to take a look at what happened before. It's like there's something that went before you came to this place. Like you have your experience of the world as you see it. You have your experience of how that is and was for you. You have come to the place where you said like, well, this cannot be it, there must be something else. Like these devastations that you went through, these recognitions that you had with that this could not be it, there must be more. And looking for that, like engaging with your discovery mind, with your adventurous mind, you discovered there must be something else. Like, and slowly but certainly doors are opening up, in which you start to see, yes, indeed, there is something else. But what I wanted to share is this: is like something happened before you came to this path, and that was not that you found your place in the world and that everything was fantastic and that you wanted to complete that with your spiritual path. No, not at all. Like it really did not work for you to live like a human being. Whether you were successful or not, it didn't even matter. It was certainly not fulfilling. It was always lacking. And there's a continuous threat that disaster might be around the corner. So to keep your day filled with defenses, with protecting yourself, with making sure that you're doing all right, was not the fulfillment that you were looking for. And I speak from my own experience too, of course. It's like, yeah, whatever I tried, I was not successful or anything like that. But according to the human life standard, I had everything that I could hope for. I was healthy. I had a family. I had kids. I had a good education. I had a job. I had this and that. All of that was just there. So according to the picture that I had in mind, I did everything right. But it was a complete disaster in terms of fulfillment, in terms of does this make sense what I'm doing? Not at all. And there was fear continuously on the sideline, continuously screaming at me, in fact. Like, watch out, no, not doing this, not doing that. Oh my God, oh no, imagine this, imagine that. And this was driving me nuts in a certain sense. Is it driving me nuts? Like, there must be a way out of this. I'm going to surrender right into this, right into that fear, because I cannot live with it. Like, I have to experience something else but this. So fear, come and get me. And this was exactly the point where things started to shift for me. I literally had a moment of being lifted out of this. I could not believe it, that would be happening, you know. So things of the world dissolved for a moment completely. And I felt the love and grace pouring down on me. Like, this is just a perfect moment. Nothing is lacking, but it has also nothing to do with this place whatsoever. So this was the start some years ago. And did that feel like a sacrifice to give up this place for a moment? No, not at all. I never missed it. I never missed it. Did I return to it? To a certain extent, yes, of course. Like, I participate in human activities, but I know this is not it. And so this is why you start teaching this too. It's like, well, you might as well know that this is not it, that there's more, and that you can come to that, to experience that in a deeper way, doing this and this, and this worked for me, and look at this. You know, so there's so much to discover then. So now, going back to the teacher's manual, this is a part. What is the real meaning of sacrifice? What is the real meaning of sacrifice? We're talking about sacrificing something, or who knows what. So where are you experiencing sacrifice? So in the Urtext manual, like in the Urtext, this big book of A Course in Miracles, in volume 3, there's a manual for teachers. And then when you go to section 14 on page 432, you see what is the real meaning of sacrifice. And I read this like a couple of weeks ago and made a recording of it, so you can listen to it anytime. And I found a booklet online too. I love to send it to you. It's like the whole manual for teachers is in there, so I can send it to you as a PDF. It's a great thing to have with you on your phone or whatever. So let me know if you want to receive that. What is the real meaning of sacrifice? Although in truth the term sacrifice is altogether meaningless, it does have meaning in the world. Like all things in the world, its meaning is temporary and will ultimately fade into the nothingness from which it came when there's no more use for it. Now, its real meaning is a lesson. Like all lessons, it is an illusion, for in reality there's nothing to learn. Yet in this illusion, This illusion must be replaced by a corrective device. Another illusion, in fact, that replaces the first, so both can finally disappear. The first illusion, which must be displaced before another thought system can take hold, is that it is a sacrifice to give up the things of this world. The first illusion is that it is a sacrifice to give up the things of this world. How could this be but an illusion, since the world itself is nothing more than an illusion? So this sacrifice of something that is an illusion is also an illusion. So don't get confused. This is a dream that you're in, that you're perceiving is a dream. We read that in the book too. It's like, this is a dream. It has nothing real in it whatsoever. None of it. So to give that up is not a big deal in that sense if you see it as an illusion. But see, there is also where the conflict can start. Okay, we continue. It takes great learning both to realize, okay, and to accept the fact that the world has nothing to give. It takes great learning both to realizing, so that's learning, and then, that is hearing it, realizing it, and to accept the fact, it is a fact, that the world has nothing to give. So this you could spend some time with, with this idea. It's like the world has nothing to give. What am I looking for in the world? I look for safety. It cannot there be found. I look for sustenance. I look for, that what will help me to continue being in this illusion. It's not going to work. I look for, well, you name it. You fill in the blank. Like I look for that in the world, for love. I look for love in this world. It cannot be found there. You will ultimately learn that the world offers you nothing. And that is not because you're depressed. It is not because of any other reason than the fact that the world is an illusion. Like it's literally something you made up in your mind and started believing it. Yeah, that's so. It's all right if it collapses. If your world starts to collapse, it's great. It's time to celebrate, in fact. But does it feel like that for you? Who knows? It might be. Why not? So it takes great learning both to realize and to accept the fact that the world has nothing to give. What can the sacrifice of nothing mean? Well, no, that cannot mean anything. It cannot mean that you have less because of it. There's no sacrifice in the world's terms that does not involve the body. Think a while about what the world calls sacrifice. Sacrifice. Okay, here's some things that the world offers you. So-called offers you. So think a while about what the world calls sacrifice. Here are some examples to freshen it up in your memory. Power, fame, money, physical pleasure. So who is the hero to whom all these things belong? Who is the hero to whom all these things belong? Could they mean anything except to a body? Yet a body cannot evaluate. By seeking after such things, the mind associates itself with the body, obscuring its identity and losing sight of what it really is. Wow, so there's a key in here. By seeking after such things, power, money, physical pleasure, and all that, you discover that it is all associated with the body, and you're actually seeing yourself as a body, obscuring your own identity, say sacrificing your own identity and losing sight of what you really are. See, are you still, say, motivated to read further and to listen? Is this really what you want to hear? Like, so all these things, power, money, physical pleasure, blah, 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 and the whole shebang, is not what it appears to be. It is a misidentification, because it is all related to an idea of you that is not true, which is you as a body into this world, you manifesting yourself as this character, dream figure, and are looking for this, looking for power, money, the whole thing. Okay, so we continue. I'm not going to go through the whole, say, section, but it's still doing pretty good. I really love to read this. So we're good on time. So I'll do a couple of more paragraphs. Once this confusion has occurred, it becomes impossible for the mind to understand that all the pleasures of the world are nothing. Once this confusion has occurred, the confusion between thinking that you're this, that you're a body in a world, it becomes impossible for the mind to understand that all the pleasures of the world are nothing. Like, you invest in this, you see this as really something, you give it value, you validate it, you want it, you have a desire for it, you want it. Then you cannot see yourself separate from seeing yourself as a body. Like, literally, that's impossible to do that at the same time. You're caught in it. Like, you're literally caught in the dream, making it real for yourself and misidentifying yourself. So you see this too, and we read this in the first, say, couple of lessons that we read too. Like, you see that once you validate that, you're caught in it. So it's like you replace truth by an illusion about yourself. And actually, you're at the same time, you feel the pain of what you just sacrificed. In fact, you gave up the truth about you, and that hurts. It does not feel natural. And this is what you feel as a human being. You adjust to it. You try not to listen to it. You do whatever you can not to feel that. But actually you feel it continuously in your dream. You feel continuously the pain of not being in, say, perfect communication. Look at this world. See what we're trying to do. See what you're trying to do, or what you have done in order not to feel devastation of you finding yourself in this dream. You do everything you can to avoid that. So the very, very last thing is starting to listen to this and actually seeing right through what you have done. And say, carefully, slowly practicing with the idea that you might not be a body, and that you have a choice in what you want to experience, and that giving up the ideas of the world is not a sacrifice at all, because you start to have different experiences of yourself as light and love and communication, as oneness, as and fulfillment that literally is not of this world. You also feel the lifting off of the pain that you have been carrying for such a long time, that you got used to, but it never felt good. So now all this can change. So is this a sacrifice? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, how could this ever be a sacrifice? to wake up out of an illusion, to return to your full awareness of truth. But still you can take your time to slow down the process and keep denying your own identity. Like, very good at that. It's such a habit. But what a sacrifice, and a sacrifice indeed all this entails. The pleasures, giving up the pleasures of the world and seeing that the pleasures of the world are nothing. What a sacrifice. Now has the mind condemned itself to seek without finding. So you're still looking for something, you're in the middle of it, you chose to validate this and identify with it as if it is you, like this body, as if it is you walking around on this earth looking for a better world for yourself, looking for a better place, a better feeling about yourself. You do whatever you can to get there. You try to distract yourself in all kinds of ways. You try to numb yourself in all kinds of ways. Look at the world. Look at all the possible options. Like literally the world was made for that. To see, here's a distraction. Try this. You need this. You need that. You need, do this. Get that. Have this. It should look like that. Or force yourself into power over others. Try that. Some are really like loving that for a moment. Only to see that what they try to hold on to is like sand slipping through the fingers. Now has the mind condemned itself to seek without finding, to be forever dissatisfied and discontented, to know not what it really wants to find. Forever dissatisfied. Forever dissatisfied and discontented. Like, okay, so now you have all your power. Imagine this, or you see this. Like, turn on your television, see the powers that be. See, are they having a good time? Are they completely happy and giving themselves away and loving everyone around them, extending themselves as natural light and love? No, no, no. So it's not working out. This is a very sad story. It's a very sad story. Who can escape this self-condemnation? Who can escape this self-condemnation? Only through God's word could this be possible, for self-condemnation is a decision about identity. And no one doubts what he believes he is. He can doubt all things, but never this. He cannot doubt what he believes he is. Like you defend that too. You defend what you believe that you are. That's where the trouble starts too. Like in this world. You tried, I had this, say previous to my awakening experiences, I saw that I was a really good liar. Like people around me started to believe what I was saying, no matter what I said to them. They believed everything. And before I knew it, I started to believe my own lies too. And that was very painful to me in the end. You know, it's very painful. Like, but you start to believe in what you think you are, and you do your best to defend it. You do everything you can. So if the change of mind occurs, that you start to believe a different, say, identification than the one that you came up with, something fundamentally shifts. Okay, so here's one paragraph about the teachers of God, and then we'll see. God's teachers have no regret on giving up the pleasures of the world. Is it a pleasure of, is it a sacrifice to give up pain? Does an adult resent the giving up of children's toys? Does one whose vision has already glimpsed the face of Christ look back with longing on the slaughterhouse? No one who has escaped the world and all its ills looks back on it with condemnation. Yet he must rejoice that he is free of all the sacrifice which its values would demand of him. To them he sacrifices all his freedom. To them he sacrifices all his peace. And to possess them must he sacrifice his hope of heaven and remembrance of his Father's love. Who in his sane mind chooses nothing as a substitute for everything? Well, this paragraph is full of questions, and really great ones too. Who in his sane mind chooses nothing as a substitute for everything? Wow. So we come to the final question. What is the real meaning of sacrifice? It is the cost of believing in illusion. It is the cost of believing in illusions. It is the price that you must be paid for the denial of truth. There is no pleasure of the world that does not demand this, for otherwise the pleasure would be seen as pain. And no one asks for pain if he recognizes it. So what is the real meaning of sacrifice? It is the cost of believing in illusions. That is what sacrifice is. Believing in illusions. Changing everything. You could have everything. Changing that for nothing. So this is about as clear as that can be said. You know, and that's why it's like, you will not accept that right away. Or maybe you do. That would be great. But if not, that's all right too. But you've heard it. So the sacrifice is really sacrificing nothing in order to gain everything. So that's why it's so lovely to start practicing this. Like, you have heard this. Now you learn to deal with this. Like, how do I do this? And then the next step is to practice it, to bring it into practice, into demonstration, where you actually start to live this. You know, not letting yourself be tempted by the things of the world. So I think it's great that we looked at this, because it's so fundamental in everyone's transformational process. You can't avoid this, to look at this. So I will use this on the website to pose these questions, and to download the manual for teachers. You can download it on the website. So it's really great, and I think this is a lovely part of the manual for teachers, because it's the crux. You know, it's like, this is the key to awakening is in it. So you're not left just in a devastated world where you don't know where to go. No, it's like, no, there's a key in it, and it is given to you to use it and to unlock that what is available to you. That's what I love about this. It's like, it's so complete, such a beautiful blueprint for your awakening. It's so useful. So that was what I love to share with you, and I would love to end with a miracle prayer to speed this whole process up in you, in me. So here's a beautiful lesson with our beautiful prayer. I gladly, it's like lesson 323, I gladly make the sacrifice of fear. Here's the only sacrifice you ask of your beloved Son, Father. You ask him to give up all suffering, all sense of loss, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming into his awareness, healing him of pain and giving him your own eternal joy. Such is the sacrifice you ask of me, and one I gladly make. The only cost, quote-unquote cost, of restoration of your memory to me for the salvation of the world. And as we pay the debt we owe to truth, a debt which is merely the letting go of self-deceptions and of images we worshipped falsely, truth returns to us in wholeness and in joy. We are deceived no longer. Love has now returned to our awareness, and we are at peace again, for fear has gone, and love, only love, must remain. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear.